See Racing joins us, Dan Beaver. Hey, Dan, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Dan, I got to tell you something. We were doing we were doing a little math at the break, or I just for some reason I said I wonder how many of these damn shows we've done. And Steve kind of came up roughly somewhere over 700, somewhere north of 700. You haven't done anywhere near, so you don't have any reason at all to have that kind of attitude with us.
I was sitting there trying to think of something cute to say in return. It occurred to me that it wasn't going to come, so just say thank you and move on.
Well, or say whatever you think, because that's what we do. We've been doing it for a long time. It works most of the time.
So, Dan, I got to start out. Did you find the race at Texas a snore fest, or were you riveted to the TV?
Kind of in between. I didn't think it was anything spectacular. I didn't think it was. It's kind of what you expect every now and then. Those kinds of races don't really bother me. Would have bothered me more if I hadn't had Jimmy Johnson on one of my fantasy teams.
Yeah, that helps.
That takes some of the sting out of the domination. But we knew he was going to run well. I think there was a little bit of drama with Kenseth falling off the pace and having to come back, or having his penalty and having to come back. There's always something in a NASCAR race. You can't. I don't think any of them are snooze fest. It's kind of like children. There are no ugly children if they're your own. If you're a NASCAR fan, there's no ugly NASCAR race. Some are more exciting than others, but they're all worth watching.
The check from Bill France the third will be in your mailbox soon.
Yeah. Well, he does work for NASCAR.com, you know.
I understand that. I understand. Okay, so here we go. We're down to two. What do you see in your crystal ball as we head to Phoenix and then to Homestead?
Well, I think one of the nice things is these last four races, we've had a short flat track, an unrestricted intermediate speedway, short flat track, unrestricted intermediate speedway. You can kind of change your roster up, and the guys at the top, Matt Kenseth, Jimmy Johnson, they're going to be good everywhere, but everybody knows that. You use them if you can. If you can't, you have to go for dark horses. But the nice thing about these flat tracks and mile and a halfers being interspersed with each other is you get a different group of dark horses. And if you make the right changes, that gives you a chance to catch up on the competition. And the changes, the differentiators are going to be in those dark horses. A little bit deeper down in Group B, who you picked as your Group A driver if you've exhausted both Johnson and Kenseth, and then Group C, that's who's going to win in the Yahoo game. And the NASCAR.com game, it's going to be in those mid-cap picks and the bargain basement picks. Everybody probably still has Johnson and Kenseth on their roster. And if they've had them there for any length of time, their salary cap has increased to the point that you just can't drop them. But a Jamie McMurray, who did well at Martinsville a couple of weeks ago, is a lot cheaper than some of the other drivers because of his up and down year, and that's where you make your difference.
Last week, did you do anything with Parker Kligerman at all as a Group C driver, or did you kind of just poo-poo that as his first Cup start and you didn't worry about him?
I kind of overlooked him. The number 30 team, I don't know what to do with them. David Strumey got it to a point. Then Cole Witt climbed in, and they were starting back over. Kevin Swindell didn't do all that great. He didn't do horrible when he was in the car. And that's kind of what I expected out of Kligerman, that there'd be a 30-something result in there. High 20s, maybe. But I was pleasantly surprised. He did extremely well. So he could be a good guy to extend your salary cap in those games. He was so late coming in that he wasn't even available in the Yahoo game. They replaced, apparently made that roster switch sometime between when the roster lock happened and that, so he wasn't even available there. So you can only roll the dice once a race. You got to pick and choose who you're going to roll that dice on. For me, it's been Sadler the last couple of weeks because he's still relatively cheap in salary cap games, and he's unexhaustible in the Yahoo game. And I think he's with a better team overall, so it makes him a slightly safer bet, even though he got beaten last week by a couple of guys at his level.
Well, Steve and I are big fans of Parker. We've known him, and we've got to follow him a lot. His year that he just kicked everybody's ass in ARCA, and he hasn't screwed up any place he's been given a ride. So I'm not surprised by his success. I certainly wouldn't have any hesitation to take him as a C driver in something. So specifically, what are we looking at for Phoenix?
Well, you're looking at the usual cast of characters in Group A. It's going to be Johnson and Kenseth battling each other, probably battling each other for the win, certainly battling each other for a top 5. If not them, then I think Jeff Gordon's your next best bet after his strong run at Martinsville. Last week's mistake, or last week's problem, is going to have him even more hungry now than he was. So I think Gordon rebounds, gets back up there in the top 5. He'd be my choice if not for the two marquee drivers. When you get to B, it gets a little more interesting. I think it gets a little more difficult because you've got Kyle Busch, who runs pretty much strong wherever he is. If you saved an allocation for him, you might as well use him there. Use him next week too. It doesn't mean he won't make a mistake. Doesn't mean he won't cut a tire. So there are no guarantees. And you probably don't have an allocation remaining for him. So then you're going to go down the list. I think Carl Edwards had a strong run at Martinsville. He's got to be on the list. Dale Earnhardt Jr. is improving on the short flat tracks because of his Hendrick teammates. He's got to be on the list. And 2 weeks ago, I called Jamie McMurray as a dark horse for Martinsville, and he almost cracked the top 10. So I think he's back on the list this week. Wish I had made my changes last week because I had him stuck there for Texas, and he was miserable. But I think he'll do okay this week. So those are pretty much the group you're looking at. But Jeff Burton might also be one that you want to look at. He's had a lot of top 15s here recently. He's good on short flat tracks. He's been dominant at New Hampshire in the past. So if you want to really roll the dice, you really need to make up ground and get someone that nobody is paying attention to. Jeff Burton, I think, is your guy. Move down to C, and I'm going with Danica Patrick. She backed up a strong Martinsville run with another strong Martinsville run in the fall. She was going to finish 12th last year before she got spun on the last lap, finished 17th anyway. And with her camber issue this spring, she didn't get a chance to back it up. So I think this is her chance to back up last year's strong Phoenix run. And Danica is going to be my pick in Group C.
All right, a call out for Danica. Okay, so we put you on the spot, as always. We do this every week. It's our job. Who are you going to pick to win this thing?
I think Johnson and Kenseth get to worrying about each other just a little bit too much, and Jeff Gordon gets his second win in three weeks.
Well, you've been riding that Gordon horse. Steve just doesn't. You haven't sold Steve yet, but you pretty well got me sold. Okay, he is Dan Beaver. You can follow him on Twitter at Fantasy Race and read all of his fantasy prognostications and tips at NASCAR.com and YahooSports.com. And of course, listen to Dan here next week when we go to talk about the last race of the year at Homestead, Miami Speedway. So, Dan, thanks again for your time this week. Enjoy the race this weekend, and we'll talk to you in a week.
I will, and I look forward to it.
All right. Dan Beaver. So Dan's taking your buddy Jeff Gordon. Who you got? Who I got?
I'm going way out on a limb. Way out on a limb.
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking Beth's favorite driver.
Casey Kane. All right, Beth Ann, who you got?
I was going to pick Jimmy Johnson, but that's not going to happen now. I don't know.
That's not an option. That isn't an option. Okay, well, she's kicking it around over there. I'm kind of with Dan, I think Jimmy and Matt are going to race each other out of first place, and I think Kevin Harvick's going to sneak in there. Harvick's real good at Phoenix.
I was looking at Harvick, but I decided to go with the.
He's real good there, and I think
Canester.
I just get a feeling that he's going to win one more race for Richard Childress before it's over. So we'll see.
I'm going with Denny Hamlin.
Denny Hamlin. I think that's a great pick for Phoenix. I had him at Martinsville. I thought he was going to win it. But.
That's right. It is the Advocare and chiropractic special out there in Phoenix. So
Yeah.
we'll see. whether that
Advocare
flies.
doesn't have anything to do with chiropractic.
Let's make sure you come back next week. Thanks to Lee Spencer. We appreciate her being on the show. Dan Beaver, as always. Beth Ann, thank you. Charlie, thank you.
Yep.
Make sure you come back and give us your comments on whatever you want on our Facebook page or on Twitter, and you could win that $50 Shell gift card. This is the fastest show on Ustream TV.
On Pit Row.
You've just been on Pit Row, and now